So the Canadian election just finished, and I'm not the most politically like savvy or an intelligent person, but like I just wanted to make a video thinking about like my what I've observed with this election. The first thing I'd say is that someone from Ontario who's at least moderately inclined to the progressive conservatives, I think like it's crazy to me that even not the fact that Pierre probably have lost, but that he lost to this degree, and I think it's just a fact that the factionalism in the Conservative Party has gotten like too like insane, dude. Like I feel like for most of people who are at least I think a little bit more right of me, like I'm pretty exit center, right? They don't really care about half the shit Pierre speaks about. Like, for example, woke culture, and most Canadians don't care about that, right? I feel like I don't. I know a lot of conservatives that don't. They're more fiscal conservative, right? And I know for a lot of people, when Mark Carney got into power, they see it as like a new vision for the party, right? It's kind of obvious that like it's still the same people in the background. I'm pretty sure even Freeland is still with the party. I'll put up an article on the screen if that is not true or if it is true. But it's not really that true because it's still the same liberals, I guess, but just under Mark Carney as leader. Which I'm guessing he's more a red Tory, right? Like he worked with Harper, did he not? But the entire thing I'd say is that Pierre probably alienated these people first most, right? Well, he also would have gained more of like the Maple MAGA, whatever, right? Because MAGA, whatever, PPC line voters were lost, I think, in the last election because of O'Toole. And I'll bring O'Toole up later. Because that I love O'Toole, right? Fuck. Anyways, so we either had to pick appeasing the PPC line voters, which was more aligned with our neighbors down south, or or go to the PCs, right? And this brings us to Doug Ford, because Doug Ford is a PC, right? And I've seen those clips. I'll put it on the screen about Doug Ford like comments on the federal campaign. And the real thing is that if you just look at what he's saying, he's not wrong. Like I'll put on the clip right now, probably, right?
Yeah, you know, something as for Corey, I've said right from day one, he's tough as nails, but he's the best campaign manager in the country. And to be very frank, if Corey was running that campaign, I don't think Mr. Pauly ever be in the position he's in right now. But it's still
essentially he criticizes Pierre's campaigning, which is 100% true. Like I want you to realize, like I probably put it on the screen as well, but Pierre had like at least a 25% lead at one point, right? 25% lead. Even without Carney, he probably would have just fucking won. Deadass, he probably would have just won the election, even with Carney coming in. But I think the biggest issue was that he could not effectively campaign. If he just properly campaigned against Carney, he probably would have won the election. I think that like for the fact that his campaign manager was like make Canada great again. I remember seeing a picture about that. I think most people were just like looking at him, trying to get him to say something. And for me, I pretty much waited until the debate night to at least make up my mind for the vote, right? Because I had made up my mind a little bit to like at least who I was going to vote for, which I think you guessed was the Liberals, but because before like this entire thing, I was going to vote Conservatives, right? Not for the fact that I 100% agree with Pierre. I just think that his plan at the time was 100% better than whatever Justin was going to do. But the thing was that Carney, whatever he's saying, he just stole the Conservative playbook. Which like, I think a lot of Conservatives are mad about that, you know? They're mad that their policies were just stolen by this guy who just came in to the country or whatever. Oh, fuck. But, but, like, that's the point, right? He did that just to, like, steal the policies and get what was popularly done. Pierre still had to pick up after that once Carney stole all his policies, correct? So, the way Pierre was just campaigning after that was so horrible. And on debate night, I was open to Pierre. I'm like, because, I feel like a lot in this day and age, you make up your mind about politicians before you even see them. For example, with Mark Carney on the Liberal side, I think he's really exaggerated, but, like, I still find it funny how much he is. But he's not, like, as different as I think people think he is. But with Pierre, I still think I gave him enough of a chance to wait until the debate night. But with the debate night, I just felt that, like, he did not say enough for me to, like, convince the Me Too couldn't go to his side. And this probably brings it to the NDP as well, because the NDP, I think, have given up on being a federal party, because when they were under Jack Layton, they were dead set, I think, on becoming like the leading party, right? But under Jagmeet, like I love Jagmeet as like a person, but he has steered the party into the wrong direction, in my opinion. Like I think his policies are great, but he needs to really differentiate himself from being the junior party to the Liberals, because I feel like most people in the country see him that way, right? Most people see him as like, he was the Liberals' coalition partner, right? I remember when I first heard about that, I was very disappointed, because at that time, I was pretty NDP inclined as well. I really don't think they should have ever, like, chose to put themselves with the Liberals. At least to the degree they did, because I'm pretty sure they cannibalized them at one point as well, right? So, in the debate, it was just Carney spitting out a bunch of like random policies. Pierre calling Carney out for being just like Justin Trudeau, saying all those like slogans, which was like what is it? Just like Justin, carbon tax Carney, bring it home. No, bring it home's pretty good. I like bring it home. But all those slogans at him, and then Jagmeet would be like, guys, I did something as well. I did this, and then Yves would just put a middle finger to both of them, right? So, to me, it was just like Carney was the only one really saying anything that like I think I could like comprehend, because most of Pierre's stuff was very vague on the debate as well. And, I went even ignoring that. I don't like most of his policies, like economic. I'm not gonna go into it, but even ignoring the debate, I just didn't like what he was putting out on his platform. FYI, by the way, another thing I wanted to say is something about the Conservative Party is the factionalism has gotten really bad, because for me, if it was Aaron O'Toole who was still running the party, I feel like I know I would have voted for him, right? I 100% would have voted for him. I would not have voted for Mark Carney. Aaron O'Toole was dead at real like Aaron O'Toole. Mark Carney is basically what Aaron O'Toole was in 2021. I guess the country wasn't ready for it at that point, but he would have won this election, because he is not a populist. He's a progressive conservative. He's more aligned with someone like Doug Ford, and I know people don't like Doug Ford. He's not Doug Ford, I'd say, but he's more closer to Doug Ford than someone like Stephen Harper, right? He's more like Brian from the 1990s, right? But he is what I think Canada needed at this point, because I think I was reading some of his policies the other day, and what he was advocating for in like 2021 basically panned out to being what Canada should have done at that point. I feel like he should. I voted for him, and I think he should have won 2021. But you have that faction, the Conservative Party, which I feel like most people who were in the Aaron O'Toole branch, like the Progressive Conservatives, either just like sucked it up and voted for Pierre anyways, or a lot of them, like myself, hopped onto Carney because he was closer. He was a red Tory, I think, or a red Tory or a blue grit, whatever. He was more closer to O'Toole, I guess. Not saying that they're the same person. They're still vastly different people. But he was closer to that than I think most people want from Pierre. Beyond that, I think there's also... Let's say there's the O'Toole faction, right? There's the O'Toole faction. We'll just name it the O'Toole faction. On top of that, there's the, let's say, Reform faction, right? Which is, I guess, Pierre's branch of it. You had Harper in that little thing, and you had, the Reform Canadian Alliance stuff. You know the gist. If you can watch any Canadian political video. I think then, but I feel like those people have now moved away from Alberta as like an entire topic. I think from there you have like Ontario progressives, conservatives, which is just Doug Ford. Like Doug Ford is having like a fight with some of the from some of the federal MPs too, which is just very, very interesting to watch. Because, I don't know if he's even going to... to me, it looks like he wants the 2029 leadership bid. And I don't even know if the party will survive by then, right? Because you have these three factions right now, but then you also have, like, the Albertan modern conservative movement, right? United Alberta, which is, I don't think they're the same as Reform anymore, or, like, at least a populist branch of the Conservative Party, right? Because those guys now have to work federally, right? So, what I'm saying is that the Conservative Party has, like, all these factions in my eyes. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't know how they're going to keep this together. Because at this point, they've lost 4 elections, right? And anyway, if a singular faction of the Conservative Party takes over, I guess the other ones are going to, like, not agree with it, Like, in my opinion, if someone like Daniela Smith becomes leader, I feel like half the party is just gonna break off, right? Or the other way around, if someone like really conservative, like maybe Doug Ford, I hope not, but maybe Doug Ford takes over, the party would go the other way around, right? Like it's really hard, I think, to even keep this stuff together because the priorities of each region are just getting more different, right? Or getting more distinct. And that brings us to like I think the last thing is like Mark Carney somehow pulling this off. I think it was a dirty move in my opinion. Like I know I voted for him, but I feel it was like super dirty that he even used the tariffs threats as a motivator to get his election in, to get his votes in. Well, on the other end, it is Pierre's fault for just not capitalizing on enough as much as the liberals did. Because it's not like the liberals abused some sort of federal loophole to get everyone to vote, right? The Canadian elections are pretty fair, I'd say. They're double checked. There was controversy about the pens and stuff, right? Shit. There were controversies about the pens, right? Or the pencils. Even beyond that, it's a pretty safe election. It's kind of on just Pierre's marketing team, and that's what Doug Ford was pretty much saying to the federal conservatives as well. Like, you guys aren't properly campaigning anymore. Where did I die? You guys aren't properly campaigning, and he's not wrong. He's definitely not wrong about this. Because the entire campaign after was based on trashing Justin, and once Justin was gone, what is there to even speak about anymore, right? What do you even say at that point? There's nothing to say. Oh Lord, get away from me! Oh shit. I'm sorry you have to watch this, but after Justin was gone, what do you even say at that point to your voters, right? For example, you can talk about the carbon tax for 2 years, and this guy comes in and removes it day one. I don't really know what you're supposed to do at that point. And same with a lot of his other things, I feel like it's just showing these flaws in. I don't want to call it populism, but it is basically populism at that point because I feel like I compare Mark Carney to Joe Biden a lot because they're both I think overqualified than the other candidate. Like if you look at I don't want to call Pierre unqualified. Economically qualified, right? That's the better. Oh shit. Economically unqualified is a better way, I think, of saying it because I don't think Pierre is definitely unqualified. I find that a stupid criticism of him, right? At least, making fun of him for, whatever. Mark Carney is definitely more economically prepared to take on this situation than Pierre probably is, right? And you could see the same with Biden being a lot more experienced than Trump ever was, right? And he still won the 2020 election. The real thing is for the conservatives at this point is can they hold it together till maybe 2029? Because I think by 2029 it is basically a guaranteed conservative win. Not that I think most people are like we could have mixed opinions on it, but at that point, I feel like shit. I feel like you can have mixed opinions of it, but wait, let me run away. You can have mixed opinions of it, but I feel like at this point the incumbency thing, because we'd have 4 liberal terms at this point, by the way, just an FYI, just to make it clear, we'd have 4 liberal terms at this point. So, I think they're just gonna win the next election by default. Because the thing with Mark Carney is that he was branded as a new person, but like if he doesn't fix the government and everything that's plaguing Canada, which I do definitely believe it was Justin Trudeau's fault. Like, there's no denying that most of Canada's issues right now were directly or indirectly caused by Justin Trudeau's policies. And it's not saying that everything he did was bad, but it's just like a lot of these issues were under his term, which you can either say it was or was under his control, because like you can't really destroy, like for example, the housing market, right? It's not something you can like fix in one day, really. You can't just fix that crap in a day. But it's not like he didn't do any, like he didn't do much on it at that point, right? And another thing is like maybe electoral reform, right? He campaigned on electoral reform, but he didn't do it at all. So I don't see what the point is. I'm just saying that I think people will just get sick enough of it. Because even this election, it was still pretty close, I think, proportionally to both parties. And it has been every year since the 2015 election. So we're probably going to see something. And I think this is like a really defining moment for Canadian politics because I think in the previous at least 10, 20 years, it was at least somewhat stable, but now you have the NDP are gone basically. I don't know how. Like, I really want the NDP to succeed too. Like, the NDP always have been one of the better parties, keeping the others in check. Jagmeet is not wrong on that, but you have to do more than that at that point, especially when the country is in like a right wing shift, right? Like the linke in Germany capitalized on like just going far left, or I wouldn't say far left. Maybe it's complicated because the hardliner left, hardliner left, comma left, the left party, right? Oh god, I'm gonna die, aren't I? Anyways, yeah, the hardliner left the party, so the NDP could have done something like that. I don't exactly, I can't really tell you why the NDP are failing so much because I looked at their policies and it's really not bad. It's not a bad policy thing. It's just they campaigned really badly, or it's just that everyone else campaigned better. It's a very like complex like topic. I'd say I don't know really how to even like approach it. Oh lord. Okay, at least I'm alive, right? It's a very complex topic, and I don't really know how to like even approach it because, the saddest thing about selection is that now, the all of Layden's work or all the previous NDP's work has just been undone. Oh yeah, that also brings me, the left is finally united in Canada too. Now the NDP is probably gone, because even in places like Vancouver, right, the Vancouver GTA or whatever. I'm pretty sure the Greens split the vote for there, right? And the NDP. I think most people are just gonna start collectively going towards the Liberals as a general left because funny thing actually, the Greens elected. I remember seeing a YouTuber say this, but the Greens elected more conservative MPs than they did liberal Green MPs, just for the fact that they split the vote on the left so badly, right? So let me do this real quick. Okay, there we go. So they split the vote on the Greens so badly, the left so badly, that I feel like there's no point voting for like these other left parties anymore. But I might be wrong. A lot of politics is like really unpredictable. Because if you told someone like at least 10 months ago that Pierre would have lost his damn seat, they would have called you crazy. They would not have agreed with you on a lot of things, and that would be one of the few things they would call you insane on. But it happened. And I'm still reeling in from the consequences of this, And then, now I'm thinking about it. There's probably going to be more of a reason for the Green Party to even exist. Because if we think about it, Mark Carney, I know he still like hates oil, but he's going to have to at least comply to like getting some oil business done. Which I guess the Greens are really against because Justin was like way more complacent to getting stuff done under a green like policy, right? I don't think going on that's going to be as much as a concern, especially with these economic troubles. Oil is going to be a nice way to make some nice lucrative cash, especially if Alberta starts complaining. Now, I don't know exactly what Justin did to the Albertans, but like I feel like if we have Mark Carney coming in, it's going to be a fresh start for like most of Albertans to think of him like in a way. So maybe they can do something there. They can. But my biggest hope right now with the Liberal Party is that they managed to get the Conservatives to stop caring about social issues, and they deadass stop caring too. But not in the way that they stop, big pro whatever, gay, trans, whatever, like that. I mean, like, get the culture war out of Canada is what I mean. Stop caring about it in a way that it's just not something that's being discussed. Because I feel like that's what it should really be. I don't even think the culture war should be a component, and I think the Trump tariffs thing made most Canadians realize this. Like, if you're gonna have to pick between your economy getting destroyed, or like maybe like some person having like more than two pronouns, I think you'd rather pick like saving your economy and maybe letting that person like have three pronouns instead of like destroying the entire country just to own that singular person. Like, I feel like Canadians are like at least sensible enough to realize that on both sides. Actually, even with Pierre, I feel like Pierre has some sort of like I remember he went back on being against gay rights or something like that, which is respectable. I think that's pretty respectable. I can respect that even happening. I know in America the Republicans also did a similar thing, but like all in all, I'll just finish off now. Crazy election, crazy election. I was screaming midway, because they called it an hour in, and you just knew it was over because in the first half you saw that Labrador went blue. But the thing about the Newfoundland and Labrador, all those countries, is that the Conservatives there are like way different than the rest of the country. Like they're actually like decent people. Like they're not like Doug Ford where they're like really corrupt, or they're like the Albertan Conservatives where they're just like really evil. Or like I don't even know what the Vancouver Conservatives are doing, dude, or the British Columbia. I think they're just out of power. They're kind of like unique, right? But like by the time it got to the Midwest, to the Ontario, you already knew it was over because even if Alberta, I think, and Saskatchewan were max conservative, which they weren't going to be, the Liberals already were guaranteed a minority government, which was just very, very crazy. You never really see that often. I was kind of holding off because O'Toole last election was projected to win at the start, but then somehow Trudeau clutched midway. And, lastly, yeah, I should probably bring this up too. I miss O'Toole. Please bring O'Toole back. I know they're probably not going to bring O'Toole back, but I really hope they do, just for the fact that he would have won this election. Like, Mark Carney is what O'Toole basically should have been. No. Mark Carney is what O'Toole was. Not even, like, Mark Carney is what O'Toole was. He was just a guy that was fiscally conservative. He was going to balance the budget. He knew what he was doing. He was looking for other trade partners. He was very pro strengthening, like, relations trade-wise with the EU and UK and Australia, among other things, He was just there at the time, and I feel like the Conservatives should have just went with that, That should have been their focus, Showing that, we have some policies that are better than Carney, Carney might have this experience with the 2008 crisis, but maybe they should have said something, this isn't 2008 crisis, this is an entirely different thing. That was due to banks being bailed out, this is something with tariffs. They could have brought something up like that, but they just didn't, and I feel like I'm just really mad that they just didn't even try in that aspect. Especially, like, they just handed that free win to the Liberals in that regard, And I don't really get why Pierre didn't do any of that. Especially concerning, like, I know a lot of people, like, praise Carney, but he is not, like, really, like, what's the word? Innocent guy, right? Especially with, like, his bank, like, stuff not being public, moving the company headquarters to America. He is not, like, clean. The Conservatives could have just criticized him more on that. I remember, like, I know they did a little bit, but, like, it wasn't enough, They weren't doing it enough compared to everything else. And even then, I feel like that's just my bias thinking of that way. Because I just remember going on YouTube and seeing conservative ads, and I'm like, okay, cool, it's going to be a conservative ad. I really hope they say that Pierre is better for the economy than Carney, right? But no, their entire ad, all their ads were just about how Carney is like Trudeau, and that's cool and all. I don't know about that, but I think most voters don't care. They voted Trudeau in. If you want them back, then just say that you're better than Carney, not that Carney is Trudeau. There's a very big distinction on those two things, and it's just crazy to me that they were even trying that sort of like, approach to getting rid of Carney, right? It's just very, very, it's just very odd to me. And even then, I feel like what Pierre's entire thing is that he'd like define a problem for you and then say that he's the best like solution. He wouldn't just say a policy and then let you think about like, oh, here's what like here's what I'm gonna do. Like Carney was doing. He's like, I'm the 2008 recession guy. We're gonna have a tariff problem. Do the math. You can think about it a little bit. No, I'm just like, I know that I did vote Carney, right? It's not that big of a secret. But I am still genuinely mad about this election result because I feel like the Conservatives just dropped the ball so badly, just for the fact that this election should have just been there, like, free to them. So free. Like, the most free election ever. Like, more free than a charity, right? It's just like, how do you lose that badly? And to the fact that Carleton was lost as well. And I don't think that really is, like, a symptom of, like, what's happened federally. I think it was just that the guys there could, like, campaign better than anyone in the Conservative Party there, which I guess Pierre just took that seat for granted. But yeah, it's just a very, very crazy election. I don't know what else to really say about it, just that's crazy. Anyways, take care. I'll probably upload some other things soon. I don't know. I don't even know why I really uploaded this video. I just felt like making it. Take care, guys.